Good morning, John here for a Saturday. Sporting my goth look today. Yeah, new jumper. I love it. Anyway, what I'm going to do today, something I haven't actually seen much of, and I'm going to do another comparison. I don't like doing comparisons, but in this case, it's very relevant. I'm going to compare the Senellier Oil Pastels with the Paul Rubens Haiya Oil Pastels. And there's quite some significant differences. We're going to see whether they are comparable, and we're going to see whether the cheaper ones are worth buying or whether it's worth just sticking to the Senellier. We'll go and have a look at that. I just want to show you what I'm working on first though. I'm doing a graphite pencil picture at the moment. I hope you can see that. Not even halfway through that yet, but if anybody wants a graphite pencil video, please do let me know and I'll do one. I'm also working on another oil pastel. I think I've shown you that one already with some chickens in a barn, and I'm now about to start an acrylic heron, so busy. I just wish I was making loads of money, but sadly I'm that poor artist. Anyway, let's go over to my desk and let's have a look at these Senelliers and Paul Rubens. The heron that I'm going to be doing in acrylic, I think it's about a 9x12 picture, and behind it is the oil pastel I'm currently working on. So busy times. I've become a bit bogged down with this one. It's very detailed, as you can see, and it's a case of solving problems to try and get to the result that I need. And this one is not due until June, but it's a birthday present for my son's girlfriend's father for his 50th birthday, so hopefully we'll get there soon. This oil pastel picture is being done completely with the Meaden oil pastels, so when I finish that, I'll give you another review on them Meaden oil pastels, because obviously I've put them to the test. So here are the two boxes of 72 oil pastels, the Paul Rubens Haiya and the Senellier assorted pastels. Let's have a look at the boxes first, shall we? They feel similar, albeit the Senellier feels a lot thicker and better quality. Now, on the front of the packages, there's not a lot to be said, but they both have 72 colours. They're both assorted. These say Paul Rubens Oil Pastel, let more people like Chinese colours. I don't know if that's an indication of what the colours are inside. Just a guess that it might be. Now, on here, this is very posh in its French writing, 72 assorted colours, and that's really all it says on the front. They're not pushing themselves, but do Senellier have to? Let's have a look at the colours. Now, I know there's going to be a difference here. Now, on the back they have this colour chart, and pretty much everything is in Chinese writing apart from the colour names. Let's zoom you in just a touch. So there are your colours and your colour chart, and it does actually give you a colour name, a colour number. It doesn't give you pigment numbers, but it also tells you whether they are opaque, semi-transparent and all of that jargon. Now, a lot of these colours I'm noticing, they're all opaque up here, but that's transparent, transparent, semi, transparent, transparent, semi. You know, there's lots of transparent colours in these and semi-transparent colours. Now, if you're liking a opaque pastel, I'm going to say straight off the bat that these are not really the ones you want to be going for. I have used these, and I'll show you the picture now. Now, I had a hard time doing that picture, and it was because of all the semi-transparent and transparent colours that are in this box. I much prefer opaque colours. Now if you look in these last 3 rows, every single one bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 including the blacks are actually semi-transparent or semi-opaque and transparent. You know, for me that's a problem, and I should imagine for quite a lot of people that's going to be a problem as well, because you're going to lay these colours down and you're going to be very frustrated seeing the colour through the paper colour through the oil pastels, because it's not what you're expecting to begin with, and that's also going to take some building up as well. So I would say these are very good for top layers, probably, in the fact that you can probably put opaque layers underneath and finish them off with glazes with these colours. These are very much, in my opinion, pushed towards glazing and things like that. So there's, you know, that isn't great. There's nothing on the side of the box to look at, so we'll leave that there. Now on the back of the Senellier box there's a lot of writing, and it's all in different languages, but the English interpretations are here. It says, created by Senellier for Pablo Picasso, the oil pastel offers freedom of creation for everyone. Well, let's be honest about that. Doesn't all oil pastels do that, really, apart from your cheap, rubbishy ones? Apply colours directly or mix colours on support on your paper. Blend with a rag or even your finger. Dilute colours with mineral spirits or turpentine and blend them with a brush. If needed, first seal the paper with gesso. And it kind of goes on like that, really. You know, colours may be sculpted with a preheated palette knife. Preheated palette knife, that's a good tip, I suppose. After heating, adhere and inlay pigments, sand, sawdust. Yeah, that I've never heard of that before. Putting sand and sawdust and wooden paper into the colour. That's interesting, I suppose. Right, and it can be used on a large variety of supports, and that's really all it says. Now, there is no colour chart on the back, but on the side of the box there is. I can't get that all into camera shot, so let's see if I can zoom out. Yeah, that's a bit better. But on the side it says nothing about light fastness. It says that. Let's just go back to the Paul Rubens. That doesn't actually say... Oh, yes, it does. Paul Rubens give you the light fastness and whether they're transparent. Whereas Senellier, and this is quite odd, I think, don't tell you the pigment name, the pigment colour. It just gives you a number. It doesn't tell you whether they're transparent, semi-transparent, and it doesn't tell you whether they're light fast. Well, let's assume they are because they're Senellier. But that's a big assumption to make without actually knowing. But this is all the colours. Let's have a look inside the box. Start with the Paul Rubens. Oh, I've done my own colour chart. Now on this colour chart you can probably see where, because they're semi-transparent, they become very blotchy looking on a surfaced paper, so maybe they're better on a smoother paper. That you'd have to test. I mean, especially the greens. Greens are a problem anyway, but they definitely are see-through, and they definitely end up a little bit blotchy. It's where the oil pastel adheres into the texture of the paper, but not into other parts of the paper, and then you'll end up with this blotchy look. Now, you won't end up with that with a opaque colour, because it will just cover everything. So, you know, that's not good in some ways, but good in others. And here we have the colours. This is a very used box. I used it for that picture that I showed you, and pretty much on the whole they look like the Senelliers, don't they? What you will end up with these that you don't generally end up on the Senellier is like, I think this green has done it in the past. You'll end up where they'll be a bit greasy looking. Now, it's not very warm in my studio today, yet I'm getting some liquid off of that pastel. I can't see any others where it's really doing that. Well, maybe they are all doing it slightly, and it's not even very warm in my studio. But it's not a bad selection of colours, I suppose. There's some quite nice nuanced colours. You know, on the whole, not bad. Not bad at all. On the pastel, let's see if there's anything on the pastel that is worth looking at. Right, now I know this is going to be different to Senellier's. On the pastel, it tells you whether they're opaque, it gives you the light fast rating. Don't know what that adheres to, it gives you a colour name, it gives you a colour number, and pretty much on the whole, apart from advertising, that's what it gives you. Also gives you these tear off strips, which is again very good. Yeah, they're nice, and I like that they do give you a pigment name as well. Now that's interesting. These pastels, albeit I would say, you know, are a cheaper alternative to the Senellier, give you everything you need to know. That's very interesting. Let's have a look at the Senellier colours. Now that's a very different range. Again, this is a used box, so sorry about that. I wish I could keep them all new. Anyway, but you know, there's quite a lot of nuanced colours in here. It's really a different colour range to the Paul Rubens, but without testing one against the other and going through the realms of taking out 72 pastels, I can't really compare them that closely. But it just looks completely different. The other set looks a lot darker. Now it might be just because of the wrapping, but quite interestingly, on the Senellier Oil Pastels, it gives you some long number, I don't know what that means, and it tells you the pigment number, but pretty much that's all it tells you again. There's nothing on here to say about light fastness. There is this little squiggle here, I don't know what that means, but I think that's on every single pastel anyway. It looks like it. I mean, I'm picking up random pastels, so I'm not even sure that's anything to do with light fastness. No, it's on every single pastel. So really all you get is a number and a pigment number. You get the tear off section. That's really all you get. You have no idea whether these are opaque, transparent. Now I do know for certain that some of these colours are transparent. Now this one here is transparent, and I used it on that picture that I showed you earlier. And there are other colours, and again it can make some of these a little hard to work with, but on the whole these give you a much better quality look. I've only used each of these on one oil pastel painting so far, but these do give you a much better quality. You feel the quality. So it seems a bit strange that all the things that are on the Paul Rubens, like the pigment numbers and opaqueness and all that, are not actually on the Senellier's. In fact, the Senellier labels for me are pretty poor. They are very hard to read and they don't give you much information, whereas the Paul Rubens Haiya does. And that's a bit disappointing when you consider how much you would be paying for one of these Senellier boxes. You would be paying at least 3 to 4 times as much for this Senellier box as what you would the Paul Rubens. So that makes, or begs the question, which one is worth buying? Well, I'm going to be honest. For me, I would buy the Senellier all day long. And the reason I would buy the Senellier is because of the transparency of almost all the Paul Rubens oil pastels. And that's quite sad, because if they weren't all as transparent as what they are, I'd probably be saying the Paul Rubens. Now, these do give you a much better quality, and they do look a lot nicer, and you can feel it and see it on the paper once you've painted your picture. Now, the picture I did with the Senellier was an early days picture, one of my very first oil pastels. So I really do need to give these another run out and see where we go with them. Let's put the oil pastels side by side so you can compare the colours. So you can pause the picture and look in your own time. I mean, there's lots of similar colours, but these seem to have a lot different in them. I'm trying to kind of find a colour that isn't in here. I mean, this warm grey on the Paul Rubens is absolutely beautiful for me. And you don't really see that in the Senellier. But then there's lots of colours in here that I'm not seeing in here. But, you know, pause the screen, see what you want. The problem you will have with both of these oil pastels is that on a hot, warm day, they will melt in your hands. I mean, the Paul Rubens already, like I said, are getting this sediment, and I can see one here where it's on the tips. Now, I don't know whether it's because of the cause of the difference in temperature, but these are still quite solid and quality looking. So it's Hobson's choice, really. You know, do you go for the quality, or do you go for the cheapness, but knowing that you'll get this transparency and probably some greasiness from these? I mean, look at this blue at the moment. They're all seeming to do it at the moment. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. Now, it's a bit strange, that one, because it's not really warm in my studio today. So let's try some blending and see what they look like on paper, shall we? Again, I'm using the Pastel Oil Pastels drawing pad. Not sure if you can get that anymore. I think you might be able to, but not sure. Let's have a look at the Paul Rubens Haiya. And again, I'm going to go for purples like I always do. One, and we'll go for this one. And oh no, that's not enough. Let's go for different colours. Let's go for this blue. And let's go for this turquoisey blue. So as you can see already, there's some liquid on this. Now that's not very nice, to be honest. So I'm going to get a dried out baby wipe and wipe that off. That's just not very nice at all. The other two are dry, but that one isn't. I think it's just certain colours, and I'm not really sure what the colours are, but let's see what they feel like. So they feel very smooth. Kind of waxy. At the moment they're not overly soft, even though they're melting. Let's go for this blue. I mean, I don't know, but I would say that the fact that that's losing oil has got to affect the oil pastel, surely. Now these feel, at the moment, reasonably hard because, like I said, it's not a warm day in my studio. So let's have a look. They blend nice. And they blend very nicely into each other. Now this blue is a transparent colour, and it can throw you a bit because it can look very patchy. But they're blending nicely into each other. The blue's transparent. The purple, not so much. Purple's actually the best colour out of these. But you can see that you can see the paper, and because you can see the paper, it looks very blotchy through here. You know, so that doesn't really help the look of your picture. But they do blend very nicely. Let's see if there's any pilling. Only through the blue again. Not bad. Not the best ever, but not bad. So let's have a look at the Senellier. We'll get 3 similar colours if there is any. So my Senelliers are quite hard at the moment, and you can feel the difference in quality already. It's funny, that purple and blue are not entirely different, are they? If this was softer on a warmer day, this would be a lot better. These look quite blotchy as well. So I'm guessing that they're going to be some of the transparent colours. Maybe the blues and purples lend themselves to that. And this turquoise is quite transparent as well. Laying them down like that, I actually preferred the Paul Rubens. Oh, that's really transparent. I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Now, on a warmer day, this is going to affect everything. And these Senelliers are quite cold at the moment. Well, that's a turn up. I'm actually preferring the Paul Rubens. However, I'm preferring the vibrancy of these colours and the quality that they're giving. See about the pilling? No pilling. No pilling. The blue's a bit blotchy. It's because they're a bit cold, I think. So there's not a lot to be said between them. At the moment, it's probably a little unfair because maybe the Senelliers are slightly colder than the Paul Rubens, but the Paul Rubens, in my opinion, were better on this occasion. So it does make the Paul Rubens definitely worth having if you can put up with the fact that you're going to know that all them colours on the whole are pretty transparent. But these colours, once they're in a position to be worked properly, are going to be a lot nicer for definite. That is probably how the Paul Rubens will stay. These can become a lot nicer because once they're warmed up it would be better. So that's a blending test. It's not the best blending test in the world because, like I say, everything's a little bit cold. It's not that cold in my studio, it's just that they've been in the cold for a while. I really must tidy up my studio, mustn't I? I've just got so much stuff, I really just don't know where to put it now. And of course, when you get gifted some from other companies occasionally, it adds to the pile. And I don't want to get rid of any of it because most of it is really, really good stuff. But that cupboard you can see in the back is absolutely crammed full of oil pastels, as too is this shelf. So we've still got a long way to go before we see them all. So what did we get out of that video? Well, I'm going to say it's your choice. The Paul Rubens Haiya are nearly all transparent or semi-transparent, and probably maybe a third of them at the most would be opaque. They are a lot cheaper, but they obviously have some quality because they give you light fastness, pigment numbers, and all the details you would ever need. Whereas Senellier, they have just a quality name, and when you paint with them, they are quality. But they also have several transparent colours. So both of them for me are not perfect. But if I was to choose, I'd choose the Senellier, purely based on the fact that the quality of the painting will be there and they have more opaque colours in them than the Paul Rubens. I haven't seen many comparisons to these on YouTube, and I'm guessing it's because those that use Senellier think to themselves, well, why do I need Paul Rubens Haiya? And they're absolutely correct. And I would say that you'd only need the Paul Rubens Haiya if you were looking to use transparent colours with the Senellier. But they have their own transparent colours. And those that have the Paul Rubens are probably buying them to get used to what a Senellier would be like. Now, they are similar, but they are not the same. And you'll probably end up with more problems with a Paul Rubens Haiya. But when you compare the price, it's kind of worth it. So I can't make that decision for you. Only you can make that decision. And my decision would be that I'd save up a bit more money and go for the Senellier. Anyway, I'd just like to remind you, I have memberships. Hello to all my members. To Avril, Avery, not sure exactly how that's pronounced. And to Angie, and to Sue, and to Annie, and to Joy. Memory's going. It's that concussion I had a few months ago. Anyway, hello to my members. Please join as a member if you want to, if you find anything particularly useful. And you can do a super thanks as well if you want. That's just a little tip for the channel. And it helps me to buy more stuff and to give you more and more details and tuition at times. Don't forget, if you want a graphite pencil video, to let me know. And I'll go through some of the things I use and do to use graphite. But anyway, on this very bright sunny Saturday morning, I'm going to bid you all farewell. And please have yourselves a great day, a great week and a great year. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.